Everyone's experience with sheltering in place is different. Some relish the chance for some peace and quiet. Others wish they could escape the noisiness at home with the kiddos around all the time. Us, introverts, extroverts, young, old, we're all having different experiences. But what if you had to be quarantined or shelter in place for 83 and a half years? That would not be very fun. I don't think for anybody. Yet, many people's dollars are locked up for a similar period of time. Thank goodness dollars don't have feelings. But even worse than quarantine, they're in prison. Today, I want to share how this works and how to stop it from happening to all your money like I have. Welcome to the FIFE Movement. I'm your host, Amanda Neely. This is the only movement that helps our generation create our unique, feminine, and entrepreneurial path to financial independence. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And after you subscribed on YouTube, make sure you have that bell so that you get notifications when we publish new videos. Now, for today's story, let's take a 20-year-old named Joe. Joe is working through college and has been taught the value of saving for the future. So Joe starts maxing out retirement accounts right away. First, Joe funds the Roth, believing taxes are likely going up, so wants to make sure Joe's saving there first. Then Joe funds a traditional 401k to get that match and for the current tax advantages. And from the age of 20 through 59 and a half, those funds are in prison or quarantined. There are only a few qualifying events to get those funds out and lots of hoops to jump through to make sure to avoid penalties. Almost like, the essential things that only are the only reason to access those funds. Otherwise, accessing the funds means a 10% penalty. So and then there could be loans, but the restrictions on those loans are pretty big and of a burden to bear as well. So not the best option. Then Joe hits the magical age of 59 and a half. And from then until when Joe's age 72, at least under current law, Joe can use the funds when and how Joe wants, just keeping in mind the tax consequences of those traditional accounts. Then, when Joe turns 72, Joe is subject to required minimum distributions, or else there can be very severe penalties. Again, the funds are being controlled like in quarantine and required to only go out at certain times and to for sure go out at certain times. And if Joe lives to age 95, which 1 out of 10 people turning 65 today will live to age 95, and I've heard that number is going to grow 8 times globally by 2050 when I'm in my 60s. That means from when Joe's 72 to when he's 95, there's 23 years of restriction. And if you do the math, the 40 and a half years from age 20 to 59 and a half, and the 23 years from 72 to 95 are 87% of Joe's adult life. That 12 and a half years from 59 and a half to 72 are only 13% of his or her years. As a very wise man named Nelson Nash said many times. I wish I could have met him. And I'll paraphrase Nelson's words here. When the government creates an onerous problem like heavy taxation, and then creates a solution to that onerous problem, qualified retirement accounts, aren't you at least a little bit suspicious that maybe possibly you're being manipulated? Now, personally, I get the sneaky suspicion that these qualified retirement accounts are all about controlling our lives, locking up our money and telling us when and how to use it because we can't be responsible with our money all on our own, or at least that's what they tell us, or that's what it seems to me like they're trying to tell us. But that to me is very insulting. I think, what if we used all that money that is used to create, manage, and oversee qualified retirement accounts? What if we took that money and used it to provide real financial literacy starting in elementary school? That could be the choice, right? We could do that. But we're not making that choice. Instead, we're using these qualified accounts. And who do we think these qualified accounts were designed to benefit? Are they designed to benefit you, your family, or maybe the Internal Revenue Service, the government? They're government accounts, right? They're government sponsored. The government controls them, right? And even if you are insulted by not being trusted with your own money, I invite you to consider this question. Would you get into a business partnership where the partner would tell you her share of the business equity later, maybe even 40 years later? She'd tell you if it's a 50-50 split, 60-40, 30-20, 30-70, 80, whatever it is. But isn't that what you're doing with the Internal Revenue Service when you start a traditional retirement account and pay the taxes later? Won't they tell you later how much is theirs to keep by whatever the tax rates are at that time? And if I'm being completely honest, I don't trust them with my money enough to enter into that kind of relationship and agreement. Do you? So what do you do instead? Personally, I move my money somewhere where it's not super accessible, but it's not locked up either. You might say it's at a social distance rather than, totally quarantined. I can still, talk with it, use it, but in a socially distanced, responsible manner. Maybe my money's wearing a mask. But the most important thing is that it's not in a government controlled place. It's actually, my money is controlled by a private contract between me and the company that I made that contract with, as its own protections under contract law. And the most important thing is that it's very highly unlikely for any new laws to be passed to alter that contract. In fact, the times in history where the government has changed the rules around it, all in force contracts were allowed to stay the same as the old laws rather than adopt the new laws. Now, I'm not telling you what to do here. I never want to do that. But I want to share what I'm doing, how it's helping me. And I want you to have all the facts, to hear things from a different perspective, and to keep in mind that we're in the midst of a great transition. If things are going to change dramatically during our lifetimes, do you want a significant portion of your wealth to be locked away where you're penalized or taxed if you want to take it and do something that you might need to do with it? Or do you want your money to be able to transition with you and be able to move from one type of account to another type of account how you need it to as we go through this great transition? The change that's going to happen and that you wish to see happens one household at a time, and it's going to make the grand solution easier. So where will you put your money to survive and maybe even thrive during this great transition? Where is the best place for you and what you think is happening? Thanks for joining me and connecting with the FIFE movement. As you go about your day, remember, wealth is coming your way. Your quest is to prepare for using it well. For more tips on how to prepare, be sure to subscribe. And to connect with the community, visit fifemovement.com. If my gift has helped you, please pay that gift forward by sharing this content with a friend. My gratitude in advance. And if you're watching on YouTube, please hit that little like button, and we invite your feedback in the comments as well. Just be nice.